Welcome on my lecture, Building Enterprise JavaScript Front-End System. Let's introduce myself. My name is Jaroslav Čech. I am creating, selling, and building startups for past 40 years. Some were succeeded, some were sold, some not. And nowadays we are under O2 operator, so we created company iCORD, and we are dealing with front-end JavaScript system, and I want to tell a little bit more about it. First of all, questions. Did anyone in this room deal with some programming? Hands up. Did anyone in this room tried to program in JavaScript? And was anyone paid for it? No? Okay. So, okay. So first, what you can expect from today afternoon. First of all, I want to show you our product, which is partly built on JavaScript, Enterprise JavaScript on the front end, only to see what is possible to do with JavaScript today. Then we browse a little bit to history, how JavaScript was developed and so on. Then I want to tell you something from point of view, so from manager point of view, what are the common problems you have to deal with when you are building some large JavaScript project. And on very end, if we have some spare time, I want to show you some very short tutorial program built in React and Redux, and you will see the structure and how the things are going there. So, first of all, our company is building something like web chat, but it's more than web chat, and we are selling it to large companies. We rebranding it to Bluey.com, and I will show you how it works. So let you imagine this is some website, and you want to communicate with someone via chat. I think this is no big deal, and we will see what's going on, and then comes something more as chat. So this could be web chat, no big deal. Now comes the more interesting part, that Lucy will communicate with me via voice and picture. Ahoj, Lucko.
Ahoj.
So we have no sound at the moment, so this is a problem with the interconnectivity, but you know. I don't hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, she hears me. It's perfect. So, can you? So I am in Agriculture University. In front of me is like 50, 60 people, and I want to show what our system can. So, can you please show me your screen? So, what are you doing now?
Yes,
So what we can is screen sharing. I repeat, this entire program is built in JavaScript, and so you don't need anything. So we have some prepared scenario. I want to go to Venezia to get some hotel there and so on. So she is able to share a screen. Can you show me your screen now? Your live screen? Okay.
This is my
so
live screen.
she is browsing over the stuff and so on. And okay. And now, can you show me please QR code, and I send you back some nice picture.
Yes, of course.
And if the customer wants to have make some photo, for example, invoice or whatever. Okay. Have a new phone. Okay. So I am able to make some photo from you. And to pass it. So please show me the photo then. Okay, you see. So there are many more possibilities. Please, Lucy, can you open the big room to share me a link? Okay. Okay, so now we are. She is able to see me and so on. So this is in very brief what we are doing. Thank you. That was all.
Bye bye.
It was very brief what we are doing and what everything is possible to do with JavaScript today. So this is what I showed you, and now the summary. Live demo, yes, pure HTML and pure JavaScript. We call it like WebAssembler. What are the problems of it, and where are the advantages of some more sophisticated approach. History of JavaScript, growing problems by enterprise web application development. So I deal with JavaScript in past like 10 years, and I think I have to tell in that area because we built many programs or systems for many companies. And what to do if you want to start some enterprise project. So, in my younger times, so I'm rather old, but when I was a little bit younger, like 20 years ago, there was new technology named HTML, and brand new technology named JavaScript. So with pure HTML you can do many nice things, but there is not enough today. So what are the problems of it? First of all, HTML is a clone of XML. Anyone knows here what XML is? Have you ever heard it? Okay, so XML is some tech language, and HTML is some subset or implementation of it, and it's a little bit dirty. So if you deal with programs written or pages written in HTML, it's not so easy. HTTP protocol, it is a protocol which delivers the HTML from server to the browser. It means if you want to change something on the site in that times, you had to reread the entire site once more. So it means there was no possibility to change only part of the HTML. And there is no push method. So as you saw on our short demonstration, if I push on the button on that screen, something happens on the screen which could be 1,000 miles away. And it's impossible to do without push method. It means that this browser push some event to the server, and the server delivered it to the target. So that's why the new technologies were introduced, because pure HTML was not enough to make some more sophisticated systems. That's why around the year 2000, maybe 2001, was first JavaScript programs introduced, and Mr. Doug Crockford, which is one of the fathers of JavaScript, discovered the weak side of the pure JavaScript, which are valid until now. So there is no types. You know what typing is or types are in programming. It means if you have some declaration like var a, so in JavaScript a could be number, could be string, could be some object, could be anything, which is not good if, for example, you have some division and you have 10 divided by a, and a is a string, so the program crashes. And you can discover it only in runtime. It means you have to try to run the program, which is good enough by simple programs, but if you have more complicated systems, this is a problem. No compilation. Compilation, if you have languages like C or, I don't know, assembler, you have to compile it. To compile it, it means it passes some process, and by the compiling, there are discovered some errors like type errors or some logical errors. And by JavaScript there is no compilation, so again you can discover you did something wrong only by runtimes. Lousy implementations. It is no more valid today, but still there are differences between implementation of JavaScript in different browsers, and the programmers have to pay attention to see if the program runs in Internet Explorer or in Chrome and so on. There are some so-known polyfill libraries, and these polyfill libraries take care to translate the language to the right dialect, but it's a little bit different story. And no truly object-oriented. Does anybody knows here what does it mean, object programming? Okay. And do you think the object programming is right approach? Okay. So modern approach is functional programming. Not so we are back to the roots, and object programming had some pitfalls, but it's a little bit above our lecture. Okay, so these are some of topics why pure JavaScript is not good enough to produce some large systems. And now to the history. So created 1995. I don't remember because from very beginning, it was there were more dialect like WebScript, Flash, and so on, and JavaScript was very simple and not so push technology. So the major technology it became several years ago. In 96, 97 was standardized by ECMI. ECMA is a standard standard recipe or whatever how the language should look like. In the year 2005 comes Ajax. Ajax is very important technology, and it enables to pull some variables or some data from the server. And from that point, JavaScript started to be very interesting, because from that point it was possible to change not the entire HTML page, but only parts of it. And from the year 2005, I think the JavaScript started to rise and attract attention of the programmers. The ACMA script was developed, standardized, and so on, and it's up to now. So the JavaScript was more common by all browsers. On very beginning, it was completely different on Mozilla and completely different on for example, Internet Explorer, and Google Chrome was not there at that time. So, as the JavaScript raised its attraction, so there were some clones like ActionScript, aka Flash, on Visual Basic script, but all these clones are dead now. So now we have only JavaScript as a base of various things we will speak later. jQuery, it was another step forward which enables much more easy programming and to get more easy to the structure of web page. And if I skip it, so I will speak about React. Have someone heard about React or React? Okay. So React is a framework or tool developed by Facebook. I think anyone knows Facebook, and from Facebook comes sometimes very good technologies. And the motivation why to create it is that Facebook delivers to any user different page, which is very so not so easy task to deliver. So if you have some newspaper web page or whatever, so everyone sees the same. But if you open your Facebook page, you see something completely different as your neighbor. And that's why the React was created, because it enables to do such a approach more easily. Why is React different? React is a tech language, a little bit similar like HTML, but very different. It's based on JavaScript, and it enables to compile the final product on the browser. It means Facebook or we deliver something completely different to the browser, as you see, because as it is delivered to the browser compiles it. Did you get it? Everything is clear? Ask if you have some questions. Okay, and JavaScript is still developing, but not JavaScript. I mean the core JavaScript, but the tools or frameworks above it. And as I As I mentioned before, if you are starting to build some enterprise or large system, there are many problems you have to or you should face with. First of all, in last time we have multiple device types and browsers. So we have like 3 or 4 major browsers, but we have number of types of different mobile devices. And on all these devices, you should see more or less the same. And this was a problem. Nowadays, we have frameworks like Bootstrap or similar stuff, which helps you to deliver the same content to different devices, which is very helpful. Growing number of libraries. So if you start with real JavaScript programming, you will hit on JavaScript ecosystem, which is built on Node.js. Node.js is server built in JavaScript, and this Node.js or JavaScript ecosystem delivers many libraries which helps you to create real good system. But this number of libraries is growing every year or maybe every month, and the problem is that most of these libraries also are open source, and its quality relies on the authors. And if the authors dies or is bought by IBM or whatever, the library dies as well, and you have to find some substitution. It means, and it happens normally, if you compile today some system, some larger system, it's high probability that within 2 years it will run no more without any changes and so on, because some of libraries you need and so on are dead. So this is very bad things, and the programmers community tries to find some solution. Heterogeneous development environment. Nowadays, so when I was younger, it was good enough if someone told I am C programmer or I don't know, something. Today, if you face to good developers, they handle 5, 10, maybe more programming languages. They are known as full stack developers, and it's because, for example, I worked many years for BMW. BMW, you know, this is in Munich, and they use really any kind of IT technology you can imagine. That's why BMW is maybe the biggest software company in Germany. So this is because half of the price of the new BMW is the software, which is very interesting. So I mean not software running in the car, but software used by creation of the car. And so you have to deal really with many languages and many environments. It's really tough task. Fast-changing development stack. Development stack means that you have some environment, like some IDE. I am using Visual Code of Microsoft, but there are many others. And to build something usable, you need to first build this environment in which you are able to start the program and so on. And this is really not so easy task, because you have to use many help programs or support programs like Gulp, maybe you know Gulp, or Webpack or whatever else. What is very frustrating for us is lack of programmers or good programmers. This is also one of my motivation. I am here. If anyone is interested to work for our company or work on for us, approach me. We will pay you very good, and if you know something, but there are no programmers. And exploding technology development. So some months ago, I tried to hire one good man. He told me he is able to program in JavaScript. He showed me some code. Everything was fine. So he sat to the computer, and within 2 hours, he came to me and told me he is quitting. And I asked why. Because he has not knowledges in this environment we are working with, and he quits. It means you have to learn every day, and this is something what not every person likes and is able to do. To underline what I spoke about earlier, this is a very rough diagram. What kind of technologies we are using to produce such a program? I showed you on the very beginning. So, as a database, we use PostgreSQL, and as well we use NoSQL database. So this NoSQL databases have raised its are now very heavily used by developers, because these databases are able to consume many inputs or many inserts. Let's imagine we have hundreds of customers, and each customer has tens of maybe hundreds of web pages present on web, and on each page moves from 1 to x thousand people, and we have to track all this stuff and to store what the people are doing to the database. So we are not able to do something like that, this SQL database. That's why we are using Redis. And yesterday I did some measurements, and we have like 100,000 inserts per second there. It means there was more as 100,000 people on sites of our customers, and we recorded in the peak more as 100,000 actions they did per 1 second. So because we are tracking where they are clicking, if they move with mouse, and so on. Then we have middleware, because the outputs or inputs to this database are reflecting this business logic or application engine. As a transport layer for these sockets, we are using WebSockets or SignalR, and then there are many more components. And this all is handled by 5 people now. So you see that one man has to know more technologies. If anyone has some questions, please ask. So, now back to programming. MVC architecture, how to control the big mess. Anyone knows what MVC means? Model control. Okay. And do you think it's good? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Limitless. So how it runs? We use for this purpose in JavaScript Redux, and Redux is So I will show you, if we have a time, practical how it works. It means, what does it mean? So we are dealing in JavaScript with front end. So we have two different inputs from user, mouse, keyboard, whatever, and we have some pushed events, for example, from sockets. So if someone push the button, this is UI, then it triggers in some actions, so it's handled in some actions, translated to some kind of event. This event is sent to reducer, and reducer is kind of program or class or whatever, which updates store. Store is some object or objects where we store the state of the program or the system, and then the change of the state defines UI. Maybe it's a little bit abstract, but let's imagine I have input text, and here I have another input text, and I want to copy what I type here to be copied here. So of course I can write like 3-line code, and I will do it. But why to do it so complicated? Because if I have thousands such elements, then I will be not able to do it by such easy way, because if I add 1000 first element, so there will be a big mess. So I have some defined paths how to do that. It means first I change the state of the system, and this state is is reflected to the other box. Again, I will show you in this on the very end. What are the components of the modern front-end development stack? And this is really a tough decision. So if you start to develop some system, you have to decide on which technology you will use. And this is not all the time the question which is better, but what the people you have in the company are able to handle. So you can choose between React and Angular. Have somebody here knows what Angular is? So Angular is like tech-based language which enables or makes easier to handle some tables or organize the stuff on the page. React is a little bit different from the philosophy and much more used now, but more people knows Angular because Angular is older. So this is the decision. TypeScript is something above JavaScript. TypeScript enables to type variables and has many more features. But the thing is that the program written in TypeScript is by compiler compiled to pure JavaScript, and there are many more technologies. Then you have something which packs you or translates the program you produced to put it on the web page. And again, you have Webpack, Yarn, Gulp. So this stuff does more or less very similar thing, and you have things, and you have to decide which is better for you. So as I started in the company like 3-4 years ago, we used Gulp, then Webpack, and now we are using Yarn. So this is moving and developing really fast. Then we have CSS frameworks. CSS means or enables description how the elements will look like, if they will be green or big or whatever. This is first. And the second, it enables that everything looks same on different size, different sizing of the screen and different devices. Again, we have many choices. And then we have thousands of additional libraries. So it means to deal with all this mess, you have to have large experiences, because switch between the technologies is very expensive. And so if your decision on very beginning is bad, so it can cost you a lot of money. So what we use in our company is a combination of TypeScript and React. TypeScript and React has many advantages, this combination. So TypeScript is product of Microsoft, and it enables type annotations. It means you can define, you have defined a type like integer, strings, and so on, or you can define your own types. The programs written in TypeScript have to be compiled. It means if you make some typo error or have some other errors, it's discovered by in compiling and not in production. It enables you to use classes, which is for object-oriented programming very important. It enables module namespaces by large programs. You have to use namespaces. It means you divide it by names, different parts of the system, and much more. And about React, I already spoke earlier. So it has many advantages. One of them is Redux, or on integration of Redux. And now I come to this object programming, or MVC. Redux is something which handles the objects. And if you have object which describes the state of the application, the Redux handles it much more sophisticated, and it enables you to track the changes, which is not possible in other if you use any approach. For debugging, is Redux the best thing I have ever seen, and many more. Okay, and what kind of advantages it brought it to us? So it has many advantages. Maybe it is not so interesting for you. It's better to try yourself, and you will see what the advantages are. So really, if I speak here about it, it's more or less abstract if you don't have such experiences. Now, if you are not programmer and if you are project manager, it's very important to set up some environment to have the project to be sure that the project finishes successfully. So first, communication strategy. The biggest problem in the companies is that if someone from sales or from non-programmer environment comes to particular programmer and says between doors, please do that or do that. So you have to set up communication strategy. It means that every communication from outside goes through one person, and this person distributed to the particular programmers. Code reviews, very important. It means if someone writes a code, there are errors, and these errors are discovered before it is compiled and so on by a so-known 4 eyes principle. It means that two programmers are sitting together, and the other reviews the code of the author. And by this approach, you kills little bit time of the other man, but if you measure it, it's much better from performance as one person writes one chunk of code. Functional analysis. Functional analysis is important for the programmers because programmers have to know what they should program. So if you have analysis like make this and this and so everything have to be very good described, that there is no doubt what was expected and what is the output. Task tracking. Task tracking. We use Kanban. Kanban is such an approach that the tasks are squeezed to, say, tasks for which could be done by one man in 1 or 2 hours, or maybe half a day, and it goes from the open state to it goes through several states to until to the reviewed state. It means it's ready. Testing, very important, because everything what goes out have to be tested. Fast prototyping. So the programmers mostly programs are according some documents or some. So they don't program from their idea, but idea from the other guys, and these other guys from sales, from management or whatever, they tell you what you should do, and you do it months or maybe years, and what comes out is not all the time what the other ones. So we make a step between. It means that if someone comes to this and this, so first we do fast prototype. It means some GUI, some clicking and so on, but no function behind it. And we say if it is okay, so we can go on. Deployment strategy. Deployment strategy. Anyone knows what deployment strategy means, or? Okay, let's imagine practical example. Someone told the banks that they should renew their web every 3 months. It means that every 3 months, thousands of programmers worldwide are spending weekends in banks because they are bringing new web to the banks, and there is number of errors which are not discovered by testing and so on, because production environment is completely different, and they are burning their time, and the result is not so good. So the modern strategy is to deploy as often as it goes. As I worked for one, anyone knows Skyscanner? Skyscanner, okay. So they are deploying like 10,000 times a year. It means they have small teams, and every team deploys 2 or 3 times a day. It means they have so-known continuous deployment, and they deploy very small chunks of the programs, it means they cannot do such a big failure. If something goes wrong, they are rolling back very easily. And Scrum, this is a methodology how to handle the project or program development, which is a little bit above our lecture. By this slide, I only want to say that to have a good program manager which is able to handle such a task is the half of the deal, and the second half is our good programmers. It means that the organization of the project is have the same validity as well-written code. So, what else we have to deal with before project starts? So we have to divide our project to namespace and some smaller projects. We have to describe our API. It means how the project will be connected to the outside world. We have to handle some conventions. It means how everything will be described and so on. We have to maintain roadmaps and sprints. It means if you have some large project as we have, so you have roadmap where you more or less know what we want to do within a year. And as we come to today, so it is better and better described with, up to these small chunks which are passed to the programmers. And this is organized by so-known sprints, which are mostly 2 or 3 weeks long. It means now we have this state of the system. In 3 weeks we won't be here. We have number of such a tasks, and we start today. And in 3 weeks, all tasks should be moved to the ready state. If not, it is moved to the next sprint. So this approach is known as Kanban, and these small chunks are known as sprints. Team communication, as I told before, we have to tell who is responsible for what, who is able or should communicate with whom, and so on. Not to everyone makes everything. So it's the biggest failure of most of startups. And testing and deployment scenarios. Okay. So this was from the organization side a little bit. And now we will come to the practical stuff. So I will show you one very simple and very small program, and then I will show you the structure and what does it mean. So I will start it. Okay, and that's it. That's all. So what? Oh, you don't see it. Okay, sorry. Okay, that's it. So it's very simple and not so sophisticated program. What it does. So if I click here, the counter increments or decrements. increment if odd. So if odd, I click here, it increments. If it's not odd, it doesn't increment. And increment async, it means there is I think 200 milliseconds between the stuff. So it means I am clicking very quickly, and you see it's a little bit delayed. That's all. So very simple stuff. And now, how it is done. So we use React and Redux, and here is the entire project. So first of all, we go to the index, to the web page. So very simple. Here is practically nothing, only one part, and this is the content and with ID root, and there is no more. Then we have index.js, which is more interesting, and this is a React part. And what it does, it first takes some stuff from React libraries and so on, and then defines so-known render. Render is a function which is present in every React component, and it says what should be rendered in the component. And in the component should be rendered some counter, which is another component, and the counter have some parameters. Okay. And what's important here, this is the store, and the store subscribe, it means receive the events from the render. So we go down to the counter. The counter describes what we saw. It means these are the buttons and so on, and the buttons have definition what should happen if you click on it. So increment if on decrement, and so on. And here are the reducers, and the reducers are very simple. So they are intercepting the different events, and we have only two events, increment and decrement. And if the event is increment, the state is of one increased, and if decrement, there is decreased, and that's all. So you see, I will run it once more. So you see once more such a so not so sophisticated and short program, and if you look at the development stack, which is development stack, it's not so easy and not so understandable for all. So, but this is modern JavaScript, and this is the way how the JavaScript is now programmed. So this was all for today. So we have some spare minutes. So if you have any questions, so please ask me. Any questions? So you have some experiences, so you don't have any questions? Not really. Okay. And okay, so ask me about anything you heard, or about anything from programming, because I was in many companies and I wrote many programs and so many things from that point of view. So If you want to ask to anything, so do it now, then I leave and that's it.
Usually, actually we are more interested in like object-oriented programming, but I want to ask like, what is the main benefit if we
Okay, so I start this question. Object-oriented programming.
Still those programmings are more popular.
Okay.
Like for example Java or Python.
Okay. Object-oriented programming. So first, as I started, there was functional programming. It means everything was written in functions. Every function has some input, then some process, and some output. Then come this object-oriented programming. It means you have an object. This object have a properties and some functions and so on. So far, so good. But if you have more complicated programs, and like here, for example, and you use this MVC architecture, it means model control view, and you have complicated model. And now imagine that in this model, you have more inputs from more sides, not only from, say, one computer, but from many computers, which change you many properties of the object. And if something goes wrong, you are not able to track, or so it's not so easy to track where is the problem and why occurs this error. That's why we are using Redux, and Redux deal with objects this way, that every time object is changed, the Redux creates new object copy of the previous, which differs from the original only by this one property which was changed. So you are able to track back, for example, if something went wrong, and you are able to point of the, say, bad input which causes the false behavior of the system. And now maybe you saw, you heard about C#. Okay, and now Microsoft, because we are Microsoft oriented, and I have to tell you, anyone heard that 2 weeks ago there was Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO? He was in Prague, and we showed him this system. We were chosen as one of the 5 companies in Czech Republic, so we spoke with him directly. And because in backend we are heavily using many Microsoft technologies. And now is very trendy F#, and F# is new programming language from Microsoft, and this is F-like functionality. So it's fully functional language. It means you have no, say, common objects and so on, but everything is done with functions. So you take this state, you change it by the function, and the output is another state. That's it. From point of debugging and from point of usage, it's a little bit unusual from someone who dealt with object-oriented programming. But for many cases, it is more convenient as traditional object programming. Questions? You should question, because the lady is not yet here. You have to sign up, and if you don't question, I will leave, and you will not get the points, Maybe a couple words about this system or motivation. I showed you on very beginning. So this system is used for contact between customers and operators or agents. So interesting is that we measured it because we say that what is measured, it grows. So we measured it, the impact of so how long the people are speaking with the agent, what is the ratio, because there are certain products sold through this system, and we measured it that the average call through our system is about 30% shorter as normal call, telephone call, and the efficiency is like 25% higher. So we use this in O2. They are selling cell phones and so on, and many other companies is using it. And the efficiency of call centers, which is worldwide like $30 billion market, is so it's really more efficient. That's why the companies are switching from traditional calls to this channel, because it's cheap for them and more and better for customers. So this is what we are doing. And interesting is, I showed you video and audio. Or I want to show you audio, but there was no audio, only one way. Interesting is that from programming point of view, is much more difficult to program chat, because chat is very easy. You are typing, on other side comes out the same, but if you have to control like hundreds of operators, and every operator has 2 or 3 chats, so it's much more difficult from programmer side as this video, because video you have only one-on-one session and so on. It's very similar to phone call, but with chat this is much more difficult. I didn't know that, no one told me it, but I realized it in past several years. So it's interesting. Only that from first view you can make some false assumptions, because if someone told me several years ago what's easier, video or chat, I will say chat, but this is not true. Chat is much more difficult. Questions? Yes?
Your company, do you organize some sort of training for students?
Yeah. So yes. So if we are speaking about training or open position and so on, so there are possibilities like copywriting, testing, or something like that. Of course, we are interested about programmers, but for example, translation. I don't know what nationalities are here, but so at present we translated our software to English, Russian, and German. We are missing Spain and other languages. Interesting is that in our core team are 3 people from Russia, 1 from this faculty, and so they are good. So if someone has interest, some interest or some idea how to help us, approach me, and maybe we will make a deal.
Are there some resources where we can go to learn more about JavaScript coding?
Okay, so we don't provide training like for students. So the best trainer is Mr. Google, you know. So if you sit in front of computer and to try something, so and the best programmers are, say, self-made men. But so we can provide such a reciprocity. It means that you will help us with something and we give you some money. So no more questions? A pity. So you should wait on Mrs. Kanska because it was shorter as expected. Normally I have much more questions, and I thank you for your attention. And we will send you a short questionnaire. You can evaluate me, or if or raise some questions, and if you will have some interest to collaborate with us, put it in this questionnaire. Thank you.